Dr. Anil Joseph Pinto, all the fathers in this August forum, directors, deans, HODs, coordinators, and administrative heads. Let me begin with a quote from Maya Angelou, the American poet and civil rights activist. She said, "It is important for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes and sheroes." Today, we will have the privilege of listening to one such hero amongst us at Christ Dean to be University, Dr. Suniti Phadke, Dean of the Office of International Relations. Dr. Suniti will deliver her presentation on the topic titled Kaleidoscopic Women Leadership that will focus on a gender perspective of leadership in the domains of business and education. Dr. Suniti is no stranger to this forum, and almost all here know her through personal and professional interactions. I still deem it appropriate to offer a formal introduction of Dr. Suniti before she takes the floor, or rather the screen. Dr. Suniti Phadke is currently the Dean of International Relations at University. She joined the Academy after industry stint in 3 locations, New York, Mumbai, and Bangalore. She holds a PhD in management and completed her MBA from City University of New York, USA, which is a AACSB accredited institution and prides on having produced 13 Nobel laureates. Dr. Suniti served as the Dean of the MBA program from 2014 to 2019. As the Dean of the Institute of Management, she was instrumental in launching several initiatives like the development of business analytics specialization, management labs, research cell, case center, and systems for documentation and accreditation. She also brought in renewed strategic focus on teaching pedagogy and quality research by the Institute's faculty. As the Dean of International Relations, Dr. Suniti played a sterling role in conceiving, leading, and nurturing several key international alliances for the university, mostly with foreign accredited universities in Australia, Europe, and the USA. She received prestigious grants from the European Union Erasmus Plus for international faculty mobility in 2017 and was the recipient of British Council UK Grant for Student Mobility in 2016. She has conducted several workshops and seminars for corporates, faculty, and students across the world. I now request Dr. Suniti to take over the session.
Thank you, Dr. Satyashilan. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my extended Christ family. Very rarely I get opportunity to speak to all of you. I first thank Father VC, Register Sir, Tony Sir, Sam Sir, and Dr. Satyashilan Sir to giving me opportunity to speak to you. Very rarely I speak to the Christ family, but I'm privileged today. And what I will do is I will share my slides with you. And at the end, as Sir said, that if you have any questions, we will take it up. So the topic for me is kaleidoscopic women leaders or leadership. Now, all of you are aware what is a kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope is made up of many bits and pieces, but when you look at it, you see the different forms or facets. Similarly, the kaleidoscopic women leadership will showcase the pattern among women leaders and leadership. Recently, I'm sure you have heard there is a lot of discussion around the topics like women empowerment, women's rights, and the positions they deserve. Many people consider it as a mere ranting and are of the opinion that women already have achieved a lot, so what more they want? Women want more women leaders in the senior positions. That's why I have evidence-based data to show it to you and convince you that we have less women leaders at the senior position and why it is so important that the senior positions are held by some women. So the agenda for me today is, first let me set the context, then talk to you a little bit on why women leaders are important. I will just touch upon politics a little more in detail on higher education and business, women in these sectors or industry, and women leadership way forward. Now, if you see women in India, I cannot just go for women leadership topic without setting the context. We cannot talk of women leadership in isolation. We need broader perspective. We need to see the ground reality in India before we come to the topic of women leadership, as women are part of the society. Let's see the report from World Economic Forum. We will see the difference between men and women when it comes to 4 areas. Gender gap is a difference between women and men as reflected in social, political, intellectual, cultural, and economic attainment attitudes. Now look at the 4 areas. This is the latest World Economic Forum report. Really, this is the report which made me choose this topic. Really, if you talk to Sam, I had chosen another topic, sustainable leadership. But when I saw this report, I thought, if I don't speak, who else? And that's why I chose this topic. Now, this is a global gender gap index. I have taken only key things. It's a long report about India. Now, they have ranked countries. Now, these countries are ranked based on the gender gaps. That means the countries which have closed the gender gap, or where there is gender equality, or where there is gender parity, are in the top of the ranks. And other countries where there is wider gap, they are at the bottom of the table. So India ranks 112th out of 153 countries. Now, which are the 4 areas where this global gender gap index is calculated? The first area is economic participation and opportunity. We rank 149 on 153. Now, there are various variables under each of these areas. I have taken whatever is relevant to me. Now, 25% of the working women or looking for work are only in the workforce. This is the lowest participation in the world. So the question would be, what is the world average? The world average is around 48%. Now, consider in the next 10, 5, 20 years, if we can catch up to at least 40-45%, what happens is around $700-800 billion of economy can grow. Why this is important? Because India is still a developing country. We need wealth. There's a lot of poverty in India, and women can really contribute. I'll tell you an anecdote. Like, as a dean of the MBA program, former VC and myself, we used to debate. She would say, Suniti, you are giving so many seats to girl students, almost 50%. 300 MBA students, girl students pass out every year. But when we look at how many actually are in the workforce, because now we are in MBA program is more than 20 plus years. So we should have thousands of girls and thousands at least in the middle level and at least few at the top level. But we are still struggling. Many of them we found out after talking to many our alumni that they have dropped out within 5 years of joining the organizations. Usually the statistics show around 30% women drop out after the childbirth. One can understand that, right? Obviously, who will take care of the child and so on and so forth. But later on in the life, if they can contribute 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 or 8 hours, I think it will be of immense help for country like India. Yes, they always say, like when we talk about seats, how many seats to go to the girls? Yes, it is important that the girls are educated, but and one girl, if is educated, she will educate the entire family. Yes, that is also correct. But you don't need MBA to educate your family, because sometimes what happens, and that was the debate between me and Father Thomas, that if we give a seat to a girl student, are we taking one seat from a deserving boy who will be participating in the economic participation or economic development or a GDP of the country, that is gross domestic product of the company? The other three also I have mentioned it because unless the foundations are strong in India, I think we cannot take things forward. The second is the political empowerment. We have around 14.4% in the parliament, 23% in the cabinet. One good thing happened was, as Indira Gandhi was there for a long time, I think this number is much better than the other numbers. The worst our rank is in the health and survival. We can understand that now with the COVID-19 entering the rural hinterland, it has really exposed already the weak and the fragile health infrastructure in India. And you see the statistics here, 91 girls to 100 boys born, which is such a skewed statistics. Low score as a result of violence, forced marriage, discrimination in access to healthcare. And the fourth one, educational attainment, we are around 112 out of 153 countries. Yes, the World Economic Forum says the literacy rate has significantly increased among women, but still only 2/3 of women are literate compared with 82% of men. So, yes, people say that in India we have different kinds of societies. We have patriarchal society, but we have matriarchal society as well as egalitarian. But that is very less. Predominantly, we are still patriarchal society. And according to World Economic Forum, women in leadership roles only 14%. And women earned income is a mere 1/5 of male income. And the sad news, which I really felt that in my lifetime, nor our children's lifetime, they will see the gender gap closed in India. They say, these are the remarks, it will take 108 years to close the overall gender gap and 202 years to bring parity in the workplace. I wanted to set this context before I go to the topic really. Now, which are the countries which are top of the ranking or the table? Obviously, they are Nordic countries, the Iceland, Norway, Finland, Sweden have the highest ranks, while the lowest scores can be seen in Pakistan, Iraq, and Yemen. Let us see now. So our collective goal, I think, as in education should be to bridge this gender gap. I think it is a moral imperative. This is what I wanted to set the. This is the most important thing now. Why women leaders are important. Diversity and inclusion matters. It is key to healthy business. What are the benefits of women in C-suite roles? What are C-suite roles means? C-suite roles are roles which start with C. C, chairman, C, chief, chief executive officer, chief finance officer, chief technology officer, chief marketing officer, chief operations officer. Now, this, what I'm going to say is not I'm talking, it is proven again and again, and there are several studies on these four quadrants which I have mentioned here. There is a huge body of research showing the importance of including women at the leadership position. Let's take the first quadrant, talent. Women in C-suite will bring talent on the table. Women are untapped resources. They will improve productivity. Lack of women in leadership positions means that female talent is being underused. Women bring diverse physical, mental, and emotional experiences to the conversation. Gender parity has a fundamental bearing on whether or not economies and societies thrive. Developing and deploying one half of the world's available talent has a huge bearing on the growth, competitiveness, and future readiness of economies and business worldwide. Similarly, if you see the second one, innovation, it has proven that more women in the leadership roles, what happens is there would be innovation. I will give you a research study by a Denmark university. What they did was, based on a survey of 400 Danish firms, along with national data from Denmark's labor market, a positive relationship was found between the proportion of women in top management teams and innovation. Women bring competitive advantage by fueling disruptive innovation, which helps in better products and solutions for the customers. So innovation and group performance, inherently, it has been seen that women take along others together, move in when they're moving forward to achieve the goals of the organization. The third is financial performance. I'm sure you know the American consulting company McKinsey. It's a famous article by McKinsey, the research done by them. It is titled Delivering Through Diversity. It suggests that businesses with more equitable gender balance perform better financially. There are also a number of studies in recent years showing increasing evidence that women in executive positions and on corporate boards can have a positive impact on a company's financial performance. Similarly, there are studies done by Fortune 500 companies, studies done by European Union. And the fourth thing which I have put here is reputation. The more women in the leadership positions, the reputation of the institution organization increases, which helps to bring in more women and retain more women. And the last thing, it is the right thing to do. So there are several benefits of having more women leaders at the top. So gender involvement of women leaders results in broader perspective and paves the way for deployment of richer and more complete solutions than if they had been imagined by a homogeneous group. Now, during this pandemic, you would be seeing these women along with other some of the women from Iceland, Norway, Finland prime ministers taking headlines. Why they have been applauded, why they have been praised? Because low death rates with female leaders, from Angela Merkel to Jacinda Ardern. Now, what are the common features of the success of these women? The most important is, I think, that trusted the collective common sense. They were very clear in communication. They took quick, decisive action. You know, like by January, they had already decided their plans. They depended on science, believed in data, did not rest on laurels, extremely humble, and they were pragmatic. And you see, this is a common thread among all these women. So can we say women make better leaders than men? No, that will be overtly simplistic verdict. This is what I wanted to show to you, that yes, in this pandemic, they have done well. But then why these women have been reported so positively in the newspapers? One is, I want you to take this as a takeaway. Only 7% nation, I think are approximately around 20 women only, are heads of the states, of heads of the government. They're extremely novel in politics. That's why they stand out, and whatever they say are remembered. I will also go to the next very recent study by Concordia University. It's in Montreal, Canada. I told you about the World Economic Forum. What they tried to connect was these women and this World Economic Forum. These women are also heading states higher in the ranks in the Global Gender Gap Report. So what they are saying is, these countries are equitable countries where the gap is already narrow, and these are the women who have managed the pandemic better. And they have all the supporting evidence in this research study. The power, according to them, is enhanced by the complementary nature of two gender contributing. And the last most important thing is, when these women were believing science, believing data, our populist leader, like Boris Johnson, initially started with talking about herd immunity, or in Brazil, he was promoting hydroxychloroquine. Or in US, mask became the political statement. These populist leaders are accused of incompetency. The men did not believe in science nor data. The men used very, very contrasting, aggressive approaches. Rhetorical approaches were very hyper-masculine, and hence we could see more contrast. So these are the two things. One is there are only few women, and as there are few women, they are novel, but they also did well, and that's why they were in the, or still are in the limelight. Now, if you see, let's go to education a little bit. Are you aware of this lady, Padma Bhushan Hansa Mehta? She was the India's first woman vice chancellor in 1949. She was the vice chancellor of the newly established Maharaja Sayajirao Baroda University. Some of them maybe know, Georgie sir, if he's there, he would know. I think Asita, they all come from Baroda. Now, the thing is, she is a reformist. She was a social activist, educator, independence activist. One thing I want to tell about her is she was in the Commission of United Nations Human Rights in 1947-48. She was responsible for changing the language of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There is a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the statement was, all men are created equal. She changed it to, and convinced the United Nations to change to, all human beings are created equal, highlighting the need for gender equality. Now, this is 70 years ago now. Now, how many vice chancellors are there, women vice chancellors in India? Obviously, all the women universities, the first university, was SNDT in Mumbai in 1916. It was started by Bharat Ratna Dondo Keshav Karve. And now also all the women universities have women vice chancellors. But besides that, how many are there in terms of the vice chancellors in India? I'll tell you an anecdote. If Registrar Sir is there, because he remembers in, I think a year before, 2018, December, there was a conference, Vice Chancellor's Conference in Pondicherry. This was organized by Association of Indian Universities in Puducherry or Pondicherry, and I was told to represent former Vice Chancellor, and this was not the first time, I had done it earlier. So I went there, and there were 40, 50, it was a South Zone Vice Chancellor's Conference. So I attended that meeting, I had to make a presentation, I did it. At the inauguration, Kiran Bedi was there because she is the Lieutenant Governor now of Pondicherry, and she invited us for dinner in Raj Bhavan. And when we were seated there in the lush lawns of Raj Bhavan, she saw the list and she said, I see one woman here amongst the vice chancellors. I would like to ask her to come here and speak. And then I went up and I told her that, yes, I'm just representing the Vice Chancellor and I'm the Dean of the MBA program. Now, then she looked at the AIU, that is Association of Indian Universities representative. She visibly looked a little upset. And this is what she said. Where are women Vice Chancellors to hear the voices and concerns of millions of girl students? Now, according to MHRD, now it's Ministry of Education, but the MHRD, the latest report on All India Survey on Higher Education, 1819, you see there are around 37.4 million students enrolled. Out of that, almost 50% are girl students, around 18.2 million. So let me show you the statistics now. This is approximate. I deliberately wrote it. The reason being, we know that there are around 993 universities, 39,000 colleges, 10,000 standalone institutions, listed on AACSB web portal. The research or the articles, some of them show only the women in standalone colleges, some show only in state public universities. So approximately, when I saw some 10-15 articles, I came to know it is approximately around 6% universities in India have women vice chancellor. In terms of the central universities, there are around 46 central universities. We have around 5 women vice chancellor. And in the institutions which they call as of national importance, right now, I think no one is there. Now, this, despite girls outgoing boys year after year in exams, and women constituting more than 50% of teaching positions in universities. Yet, this has not translated into senior appointments and leadership positions within higher education institutions themselves. Going by the numbers, it seems women have foot in the door, but fewer seats at the table. If you see these women, I have deliberately put the NIRF ranking, they're doing fine. See their rankings, Christ is around the band of 150 to 200. They're doing fine. In fact, Jamia Millia has come in the Times Higher Education, I think 600 to 1000 something, at least they have come up there. Now, this is again from the MHRD data. Post-wise gender distribution, you see automatically a pyramid is formed. If you put demonstrators, there are around 190, they will be below assistant professors or lecturers, and above professors will be probably the deans, directors, and vice chancellors, which will be around, as I said, 6 to 7 or 8%. So automatically a pyramid is formed. So as you see in the ladder, the number of women start decreasing. So women in academia, glass ceiling and sticky floor. You see more women as tutors, demonstrators, and few at the professor level. Again, there are more women professors or associate professors or lecturers in social sciences, humanities, and arts, but not too many compared to these others in STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now let's go from India. Look at the world. Only 39 of the top 200 universities in the world are currently run by women. This is the 2020 Times Higher Education ranking. Now you can see that I have put some of the pictures of women from the top 100 universities in the world. But the best part and the beauty of it, the number 1 university in the world is Oxford University, and the Vice Chancellor is Dr. Louise Richardson. She is the political scientist. And for Oxford University also, the first woman Vice Chancellor in their 800 plus year history. So that is incredible, I think. And that also shows that women can lead big universities. The number of women in the higher positions in the higher education sector are in the countries like US, Sweden, Netherlands, and the UK are some of the countries with high numbers of female-led institutions. But if you see again, I'm sure some of you would be aware of the Russell Group. Russell Group is the top universities in UK, 24 research-intensive universities. They have though only 1 female vice chancellor. So it is striking that still very few of the world's top universities are led by women. Now, what are the qualities in these 4 women? Couple of things. I went through their careers. I found out certain things are very, very common among them. I started jotting down. These women have not taken any shortcuts. They know their mind. They are self-aware. They are contextually aware of their environment. These women know how to wrestle with paradoxes, drive change for the new, and conserve the best of the old. They do not put low value on their abilities. They take their teams along with them in the journey to achieve their goals. So when you look at these women, there are certain common qualities among women who are in the top of these ladder. I can tell you several achievements of these women, but one of the key achievements, which I feel somehow we don't see at all in India, is in just last year, you have the achievements are, one of the things I wanted to tell was the endowments they have collected in just one fiscal year. Oxford has collected 6.1 billion pounds, Emory $7.87 billion, Cornell $7.3 billion, and Imperial College 178 million pounds. And with this kind of a money, it's not just a question of infrastructure. It is a question of they can do so many things just because they have so much endowments. I can tell you, if you are interested, at the end of the session, some of the best practices. I know a little more about Emory as my son is studying there. And the way they are doing the research, and it's amazing. I mean, unparalleled. So the whole idea is these women are doing extremely well. So that's it on the education. I will go a little bit on the business or the industry, the business icons in India and the world. Now, if you see here, I've just taken randomly from the Fortune 500. Fortune 500 is the Fortune magazines which compiles and publishes the data, which is a more authentic data. Now, around 6% of the companies are led by women, around 29 on 500. And I just randomly took these women, and you see they are heading different kinds of businesses. Usually, traditionally, still they say that women in businesses means they should be banking and insurance. But here you see Sundaram Fasteners, that is, they manufacture these components. It's a TVS group for automobiles and aviation. Heritage Foods, I think some of you may be taking their milk and yogurt. And Cipla is a pharma company. But I also noticed when I put these four, just as I said randomly, Aarti Krishna is from the promoter's family. And Samina also is from the promoter's family. So that also gives us the hint. Many of them are the second, third generation in their own businesses. Let's go from India to US. S&P is, these are the stock performance indexes in US. Now we are talking just in US. And here also you see there is a problem. There is only 7% are led by women, around 38 on 500. And you see this pyramid, the total employees, that is women employees around 44%. But as you go up in the CEOs, it is just still 5 or 6%. So we saw India, we saw US. Now let's see in the global Fortune 500, these are the large companies in the world. Only 2.6% are led by women. Now, how many Indian companies are there in Global 500? There are only 14 companies. Around 160 are US, and then followed by UK, China, and so on and so forth. Now, last couple of years, that was I think 2015-16, we had Arundhati Bhattacharya, because she was the chairman of State Bank of India, and State Bank of India is in the global 500 companies. Similarly, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation had Nishi Vasudev. She was also there. And then when PepsiCo was there, Indra Nui was there, but then obviously she shifted to US and she was the CEO of PepsiCo. But now these women are not there. So right now, no Indian company with a woman CEO on the 500 list. Now let's look at the board. Women's global representation on board. Here you see a better figure. You may be wondering why. Usually you see 6-7% of women in the top, but in the board it is higher percentage. It's much better, though less compared to these other countries, especially the Nordic countries. Why India ranked 12th in women member presence on companies board globally is There is a push by SEBI. SEBI is the Security Exchange Board of India. They have made it a mandate that there should be one woman director in the board. But Indian companies were again very smart. They tried to find the loophole and they tried to put the promoter family, like that means a niece or wife or somebody, into the board. But now the SEBI has understood this and then they have brought in with some other regulations. Now, this I mentioned a little earlier about Concordia University research. They also did a research and saw that the same countries who have closed the gap or are higher in the rankings in the World Economic Forum also have higher percentage of women on the board. So the overall scenario in the country itself needs to be changed. So where are women leaders? This picture itself depicts just few. All of you are aware of these barriers. Obviously, the work-life balance, the gender-insensitive society, they are paid less, they have to work double, and there is a glass ceiling which is very, very real, the unseen barriers of unconscious bias and stereotyping. And there is research which shows that because of this glass ceiling, it is a psychological barrier, they say, and because of that, women start feeling inferior. They feel that they won't be able to take up big jobs or big tasks or difficult tasks, and their internal motivations also go down, and they have diminished leadership aspirations. So these are some of the barriers, and we can talk a little later. Now, if we want to go forward, to have a gender equal world, especially in the Indian context, I think we need to have an organization culture. Organization should have a conducive environment at the workplace, especially in terms of the policies, practices, processes, like maternity and paternity benefits, flexible career options, effective policies on sexual harassment of women at the workplace, etc. The culture has to be very, very positive, friendly towards women, and identifying the women at a very early age, grooming them, training them is extremely important. The boards need to be very gender sensitive. They need to have some initiatives to help women reach at the top. Let me give you examples of some of the initiatives. I have chosen these two companies because they're still considered like progressive thinking, forward-looking companies. And Wipro is from Bangalore. That's why, and TCS, which is one of the top IT companies in India, at least others can follow these examples, and they are some of the best practices. Like Wipro has around 30% women force. That's good for India. And they have a program called WOW, WOW, Women of Wipro. And they have the three main themes, like how do you give exposure to women, how to make it a flexible schedule for women, how to empower women. And under these categories, there are several initiatives they take, but two I thought was key. One was the mentoring. I think mentoring of women is extremely important. Why? Because they need it. And many a times, men are not ready to take up women under their wings. The reason being they think that women are very emotional, and because of these sexual harassment cases and all, they want to be away from all these things. But having mentoring on a regular basis is extremely important. Second is the Wipro has WOW speaker series, where they call different women who have achieved, they talk about their journeys, they talk about their barriers, they talk about their opportunities, and that's the way what they do is they encourage and inspire other women in Wipro. So that is WOW program of TCS. Let me give you one example of TCS now. TCS has something called small I, Excel. This is called a reorientation program. Many a times after childbirth or for various reasons, women take extended period of leave. When they come back, right? They are given orientation in terms of, because they usually lack confidence. They know that in an IT industry, they're all within 6 months, 1 year, they're far behind in terms of technology. So they are given in terms of upskilling them, they help them. They also try to instill confidence in them. So what I'm trying to say is some initiatives have to be there in the organization to help women reach the top. And TCS initiatives really has won the hearts among the women employees because they feel that TCS cares for them, and it has also helped in retaining more women, and the attrition rates among women also has dropped because of these initiatives. Another important thing is to have this gender equal world is bring transparency into the recruitment and selection processes for senior appointments. Very rarely we see that kind of transparencies. Let me just give you just few examples and then I will end. Some of the best practices of the global companies. You know, the Fab Five companies, absolutely not affected by the pandemic. On the west coast of US, in the San Francisco Bay Area, you have the Facebook, Apple, Google, and you go up on the Seattle, you have Amazon and Microsoft. Why I chose something right they're doing? There are a lot of issues with these companies, but something right also they're doing. Now, the value of these five companies is $7 trillion, is greater than around 200 countries' gross domestic product put together. That means that's huge. You know, India's GDP is around less than $3 trillion. Then the amount of things entire country does it for 2 years, only these five companies do it in 1 year. Let's see some of the best practices. All these five companies have women in C-suite roles. I'm sure always these, because why? These are very, very powerful women in the world now. Because each one of them is handling the value which is more than 3 or 4 or 5 countries, as if they're running these countries. Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, each one has on the top positions. Obviously, Facebook, there will be Mark Zuckerberg as a founder and Microsoft, Bill Gates. But after that, you will see there are many, many women nowadays. On an average, around, I would say 25 to 30% are women. And then in the technology, probably 20%. Leadership is also around 20-25%. However, if you compare it with Indian IT companies, who I said are the best in terms of their best practices, they also have around 11 to 13% women on the top positions. The most important takeaway should be like these companies have the commitment from the top management. The companies have a strategic intent to nurture women and empower women. I will just read out Apple. Apple, you know, is last month became the only and the first company to have the valuation of $2 trillion. It's a beautiful statement they have written. I'll read it for you. It's quote, "At Apple, we are not all the same. And that's our greatest strength. We draw on the differences in who we are, what we have experienced, and how we think. Because to create products that serve everyone, we believe in including everyone." And I mean, it summarizes the culture in the company. Right now, they have around 29% women in leadership roles, and they have seen that all over the world. They have championed equal pay around the globe. If you see Amazon now, they have many affinity groups. Affinity groups are like employee resource groups. I have just mentioned 3. They have groups for Black women, they have groups for disabled. Now, these are some of the other groups, like women as at Amazon. What is the role? Attracting, developing, and retaining women in both tech and non-tech roles across all of Amazon's businesses. There are women in finance initiative, Amazon Women in Engineering. So these employee resource groups bring Amazonians together across businesses and locations around the world, and they help them in recruitment, retention, training them, and so on and so forth. If you see, Google has this initiative because I told you the major psychological barrier is stereotyping women. They have a training called counter stereotype training. And I saw there are several studies on counter stereotype training, and it really, really helps. And this is one initiative of Google I really liked. So I would like to conclude now. What we saw was India needs to create an environment, an ecosystem of gender parity, gender equality. Women still today remain underrepresented at the senior positions, both in academia and in industry. It is proven, I showed you, in terms of they bring talent, they bring innovation, they bring financial performance improves, productivity improves. The research data that women leaders bring unique perspectives, ideas, and experiences to the table that enrich conversations and lead to better institution decisions. So, in today's hyper-competitive marketplace, gender diversity is a need of the hour. Not just it is a good thing to do, but for growth and to thrive, I think women leaders are important. The men and the women, I feel, are the two wheels of society. If one of the two falls defective, the society cannot make. And hence, what we have to do is we need to accept the fact that women leaders are important. We need women to be cherished, nurtured, encouraged, and empowered. We need to create equal opportunities and policies which are women-centered, women-friendly. We need to educate, train them, upskill them so that the wheel of society runs smoothly. Let me end with a quote from Sheryl Sandberg, who is the CEO of Facebook, as I said. I want every little girl who is told she's bossy to be told instead that she has leadership skill. India needs more women leaders. It's not just any women to tick mark. That is a major mistake our companies are doing. We need women who are meritorious and capable women at the upper echelons of the institutions, and then we can bring sustainable development in the country. The focus on inclusion and diversity is an essential tool for building a smarter, more innovative, and progressive workforce. So thank you. I specially took pictures from my garden for you and made a collage for you. It has been raining last 2 months. The garden has blossomed. And I thought I'll take nice pictures of my garden. Thanks a lot. Over to Satyashilan, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Suniti, for that well-prepared and very enlightening session. Some takeaways I would like to summarize from what you presented, that India, despite the economic and developmental strides it has made, the statistics on gender gap is still not great. It's not flattering at all. The other takeaway is that some very alarming statistics you said, that it will take 108 years to bridge the gap, and almost a century, and 2 centuries to bridge the gap in the work rate. I mean, that's pretty difficult statistics to kind of deal with, but I think that's where we are. And then you make a very vocal recommendation for greater gender parity in business and education. Some positive point you made was that at the board level, although the situation is far from ideal, the push by SEBI to appoint women directors has brought diversity into what you called an all-boys club, which is how the fact was. I mean, prior to that, probably the board was always all-boys club, but some inroads women could make into the boards because of SEBI's regulations also. But it's come through regulation, not that the society is changing. It's come through purely legal means. So that's one more takeaway. What are the problems and reasons for the gender disparity in the workplace? You mentioned issues like work-life balance, gender insensitive society, paid less than their male counterparts, probably something that is global. Being from the HR function, I can say that this is a global phenomenon, not just specific to India. You use words like glass ceiling, of course, very well known, and sticky floor. No, probably there are not enough women in the world. So sticky floor as well as glass ceiling, unconscious bias, something that's become a topic of debate. And then you talked of what organizations should do to address the issue. You talked of issues like conducive environment, supportive culture policies, specific initiatives to help women reduce the pay gap, and then you also mentioned counter stereotype training. So those are the takeaways I could see from this well-prepared presentation. The floor is now open for Q&A. But as I promised, I have a couple of questions I will ask you before the others can open up. Specific to education, one question I would like to ask you is, now, as you've been a leader in this field of higher education for a long time, what specific advice would you give to people who are coming up in the profession now?
Okay. Higher education, I don't have much to say, especially to the audience here, but I think if we believe in ourselves, if our consciousness says what we are doing is right, I think most of the things will follow. There are huge issues in higher education in India, especially in terms of recruitment and promotion. If we start looking at people, or you come from the same region, you have to speak the same language, right? And if you are the one who dress like me, then obviously it's a very homogeneous population who is running at the top. And then the women will never have a chance. Women have to believe in themselves. They should think that I can do it, and they will do it. Because inherently, I feel certain things women have it. Say, for example, in terms of right brain thinking, in terms of creativity, multitasking, I think there are certain positivities in women, and I think it comes in the fore automatically. They are very, very humane. I will give you example in the sense, whenever women are challenged, they take it as an opportunity, right? So if women have to go higher up, I think just one thing, believe in yourself. You have everything in you. You can do it. Instead of I can't, just say I can. Yes, sir.
One more question from me, and then probably I will throw the floor open for others to ask.
Yes.
The question is, who are the women leaders who you felt inspired you and why?
It's not just one woman or one somebody. I think over the years, as we ourselves evolve, different people have changed me, I feel. And when I look back, I can start with my mother when she used to we used to have a school, blind school, the other school of blind, which is very close to my house. And these boys used to come, only one boy at a time, like twice or thrice a week. And the way she used to, this was an honorary job in the sense like it was not a full-time paid job. But the way I saw dedication, the way I saw you can do something without expecting something, and the happiness you get by serving. So each person I take something. Now within our Christ University, many of them I really am not probably a good quality. I don't know. I'm a little aloof. I'm more in my cocoon. But many women within the organization, our Christ also inspire me. You won't believe it. Say, for example, as a dean of MBA, you may know, I don't know whether these women are here right now, but you know Lata. I used to wonder how hardworking she is. I used to see Lakshmi, her commitment. I used to see a head of specialization accounts, Marina Matthew. So sincere. I used to see when I joined, I don't know, Malika, are you there? Maybe. Malika used to be always MC at the Rector's Day, and I used to like the way she used to carry herself while doing the emceeing presentation. 1 or 2 years ago, I was called there is a college here, Malleshwaram Ladies College, I think, for the Women's Day celebration. I had to speak on women in education. That's all, not higher education, women in education. I wanted to take a historical perspective on that. My name was suggested, probably Register knows, Shakuntala Khatre is our board member. I think she is from that place. So she told them to call me. Here I went to our colleague, Bageshwari, and the way she spoke on Gargi, the ancient philosopher, right? I was struck by the knowledge she had, the historical knowledge about women and higher education. She's talking about Gargi, who is 9th century BC philosopher in education. She was good in Vedas. But on the world stage, if you go, I mentioned Angela Merkel, not because she was in the cover page of the Time, but I like at the outskirt, she looks tough, but she's always called a compassionate mother, right? The way she handled the Syrian refugee crisis of having 1.5 million Syrian refugees in Germany. And United Secretary General also said this, lauded her leadership style at compassionate leader. We talked of Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda Ardern also, I like her charisma. I like her empathizing with people. You remember last year there was an attack on the mosque in New Zealand. 50 people were killed. Within few hours, she was with the victim's family with the black scarf. She was hugging them, and it went viral. And it was called as Jacinda mania. The way this empathizing thing, I think, comes naturally to women, and I admire all these people. One more last thing, I remember my teacher, the consumer behavior teacher, the world renowned, our students also still use her book, Leslie Kanak and Schiffman by Consumer Behavior. She was my teacher in New York. And the way she would come, just the aura which she used to come, very pleasant, the way she used to dress, the way she used to walk. So all these women, I think, inspire me. Little by little, you want to not copy them, but somehow unconsciously you imbibe, okay, I also would like to do like this. I also would like to be like this.
Okay, I think, it's been a very interesting discussion, but I really want to sign off with, it's 16:19, so I sign off with one very personal question. We talk of work-life balance,
Yes.
women having, a problem in managing home and work.
Yes.
So if I have to ask a very personal question, on a Sunday morning, what are you likely to be doing, just to kind of for relaxing from work?
Yeah, okay. In terms of work-life balance and Sunday, I'll connect that. One is in terms of work-life balance. I changed that terminology, and I think most of the women in the world have done it. Again, you are the HR expert. You tell me if I'm right. As soon as you talk of balance, then one side will start tilting if you are in physics, like a balance. If you start thinking as work-life blend, work-life integration, or work-life choice, then it becomes easier to juggle between family and work. I divided my things into three parts: personal, professional, and social. And I know I'm not a superwoman. I know I can't have it all. And very early career in my life, I decided I will give away most of my social part, because invariably in the summers also my son used to be in the sports as well as exams and all. So I just focused on personal and professional, but it's a personal choice what you want to do. Now similarly for Sundays, what do I do? 2 Sundays are fixed, but I will tell you, not during this COVID times, generally for years 2 Sundays are fixed for me. Third Sunday of every month, we are 10 couples. We have a book club. It is called Kitab Khana. Kitab means book, Khana means food. We meet around 9 to 9:30 is assembly of this. So 10 couples means once in 10 months, it will be in my house. I have to give breakfast to these. Around 15 people are present at any third Sunday of the week. And we have to read a book and come. One book per month, because I like reading. And we have to share that book for 5 minutes. So the last book which I read was this When Breath Becomes Air. Has anyone read it? By Paul Kalanithi, resident doctor in Stanford. Residency means like MD. The surgery residency 6th year, and he gets the cancer and his life. So this is what I do, third Sunday of every month. And one more Sunday I do is I go to Anekal. Anekal is when I came back from US, I used to stay in Jayanagar. They were my owners, the old couple. They have their son in US. They have adopted me like their daughter. So every once a month, I go there for lunch. Now they are in Anekal because they are old. I shifted them to senior living condition home. So earlier they were here in Jayanagar, and I used to go from the university directly to them because they used to wait for me to have lunch with them. So these are the two Sundays, and other 2 Sundays are variable. Shopping or going around or just watching something on Amazon Prime or Netflix.
Looks like you live a very structured life, planning your Sundays like that. but I certainly, as a professional, I certainly agree that instead of looking at things like as in work-life balance, where you're this one probably work-life integration is a better outlook, where probably you're not separating that this is my work and this is my work. Probably
Yes.
integrating of that too is a better idea to look at. And at least in my experience, I've seen people being a little bit more successful when they do this. At least successful in the sense that is, I feel a lot more at peace when they do this. So that's my perspective. So it's already 16:23. I think kind of time to wind up, ma'am. So I'll say my word of thanks, and I think there's an announcement the registrar would like to make. So, but I will end with this small word of thanks. I, on behalf of the Praveen Kenneth Chair of Leadership, thank Dr. Suniti for her well-prepared and inviting talk on the issue of gender issues in education and business. I wish to thank respected Father Vice Chancellor Abraham VM for VC Father Joe CC, the Registrar Dr. Anil Joseph Pinto, and Praveen Kenneth Leadership Chair for creating this forum for exchanging ideas on leadership. Thanks to Samuel George for helping coordinating the session. There's been a lot of background work that's happened. Also, I need to take time out to thank Dr. Tony Sam George. We've been having some technical issues with Sam's connectivity. He's been helping us to host this in the back end. So thank you, Dr. Tony Sam George, and thanks to all the fathers in this forum, directors, deans, HODs, coordinators, administrative heads for your participation. Thank you so much.